Welcome to Heart and Hand, the podcast that would happily sign your pie. This week on Heart and Hand, oh how we love to hear the sheep bleat. So welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar. I am your host as always, and joining me this week is one of the very heavyweights of Heart and Hand. It's none other than the man with all the charm, Mr. Ian Hogg. Good evening, sir.
How you doing, mate? How you doing? A wee win at last against that mob. And see, when you say bleating, I hope we're going to talk about Derek McInnes.
Well, we can't not. It's a Rangers podcast, and of course we will be talking about several, I thought, very enjoyable parts from the match at the weekend. A good performance from Rangers, and as Hoggy mentioned, finally in Glasgow showing up against this mob and making them look like the 10 men behind the ball jobbers that they are. But I first want to mention a rather bizarre video which you may have seen. It's kicking about social media, folks. If you haven't seen it, I would urge you to look for it, in which Aberdeen, it's hard to describe, but basically what appears to be a large and, I would have thought, deliberately overtly homosexual man, with all the worst sort of homosexual cliches that I thought that you weren't allowed on TV since the death of Dick Emery, appears from the tunnel and throws a pie at the Aberdeen manager, Derek McInnes, and shouts, "Would you sign my pie, Derek?" To which a young, I think ostensibly groundsman or ground worker dives and catches the pie and says to Derek McInnes, I saved you. And sorry, I'm actually sitting here just still gawping at it. I'm still knocked out. And Derek McInnes says, and with a wonderful range of thespianism that I didn't think he possessed, "Okay, son, you should be a goalkeeper." Now, I still don't know what this was about, and I still don't know why they did it. Like I say, the 70s gay stereotype apart, I mean, that maybe how the thinking is in Aberdeen these days. I was going to say they're 20 years behind the rest of the world. I mean, ABBA are still number one up there. But coming out on the eve of us playing them, it just made me think, one, God, I cannot stand that tin pot little club. And two, what the fuck?
It's it's almost as if their media team all went on a massive bender for 2 days and then got the keys to the cupboard. Very strange. Or maybe that's just what passes for humour. I'm not going to tar all Aberdonians with that, David, because there's some very fine Rangers supporting Aberdonians. I will tar that club with that, however. There's a club with delusions of grandeur beyond belief, and it kind of plays into those delusions of grandeur play into my, as you know, and I've been very vocal on the pod previously about it, the way we play against Aberdeen, and I hope you notice I've just gone seamlessly into the football.
Yeah, I like that. What I will say is, folks, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It is baffling. If it was meant to be humorous, it's about as funny as a paper cut on your Jerry helmet, but it's worth seeing just so you can sit there and go, what the hell? But yeah, going on to the match now, there's been a bit of fruit between Rangers and Aberdeen this season. I think it's got a little bit spicy at times. And in the week leading up to the game, Stephen Gerrard made the, I think, unarguable assertion that Aberdeen raised a game against Rangers. This annoyed Derek McInnes, who said that that's not true. And it was good of his team to back him up on that, I thought, on Sunday. But yeah, Rangers took to the field. I think we were all intrigued, Hoggy, by how it would line up, because there's no getting away from the fact Rangers had 3 shambolic performances against Aberdeen and Glasgow. 3 desperately disappointing performances where, to be quite honest, it was 270 minutes that Rangers could have doubled and still not scored. Aberdeen had come, sat in. Rangers were playing the rigid 4-3-3 formation that we tend to play against them, or that we tended to play earlier in the season against everyone. And Rangers would be given the ball. Aberdeen had no ambition at all, because their view was they will make a mistake, we will get a chance. And unfortunately for us, they were right. But Rangers created nothing. We would knock the ball wide, it would get crossed in, their giant centre halves would head it away, we would repeat the process, they would break up the park and score. And we couldn't quite believe that we did it 3 times in a row, but we felt going into the match yesterday, Hoggy, we've changed our system slightly, tweaked it. I mean, it's not been a radical change, but we've moved to what's more, you would say, kind of 4-3-2-1, the old Christmas tree formation. And we hoped that it would give Aberdeen different problems for there. And I understood why they kept doing exactly what they'd done before. And look, when you've been successful 3 times in a row, then it's the converse of the line for us. Keep doing the same things, you'll keep getting the same results. So it was whether or not our changes would be effective. And in the end, they were.
Yeah, they were. My biggest criticism, as you know, that I alluded to a couple of minutes ago with Rangers and Aberdeen is for years, and I'm not just talking about Steven Gerrard, this goes back years and years and years. We treat Aberdeen home and away as if they're Real Madrid. And it's baffled me for years why we've done it. We did it even in the early 2000s when Aberdeen were... they were one of the poorest sides, if not the poorest sides in the old SPL. And we've done it this season. We've stood off them. We've let them have space. We've given them space in the penalty area. We haven't gone at them. We haven't gone after their throats. And we did yesterday. And it ended up in the second half. And again, I'm sure we'll come into this. It ended up in the second half a bizarre game of football to watch because Aberdeen clearly were not interested in coming out. But, focusing on us, we went after them. I think it took us about half an hour or so to really ease our way into the match because we didn't get an early goal. But what we didn't do was what we have done so often throughout the season is panic. We just kept on going on about it. We kept on pressing them really high up the park, winning the ball back and knocking it about. What I really liked, though, David, was, and Candace has done this the past few games as well, is Ryan Kent, who came in for Candace. He's basically been given free rein. Go left, go right, drag them about and see if they'll go with you and open up the space. And when the space opened up, Scott Arfield went into it. Stephen Davis would find him. Glenn Kamara would find him. Defoe would hold up the ball and bring in the midfield. It was from about half an hour in of feeling our way into the match, I thought it turned out to be a seamless performance. And then the last half hour, Jesus Christ, it was like Harlem Globetrotter stuff. Aberdeen simply couldn't get the ball. And I should say, not that I think they actually wanted it.
No, that's a fair point. I agree with you. The first 20 minutes, half an hour, were quite cagey. I think as Aberdeen were saying, look, there's the fact they're trying something different, how's that going to work? And with us obviously having been aware of what had happened before. But what I thought happened was Rangers just squeezed the life out of them. They couldn't get through that midfield, which is so much more solid and creative. They do offer a lot more in terms of trying to play through the middle. And as we gradually asserted the game, we moved them, and we haven't done that in the previous 3 matches in Glasgow. Their players could stick pretty loosely to, pretty rigidly to their shape, knowing that we were unlikely to do much that was going to move them. Whereas because we were whizzing the ball about at pace, then going through the middle, and going wide and mixing it up a little, that they couldn't just retreat into their formation and stay there. Look, Aberdeen weren't the only side we did that against. You remember the match against St Johnstone, the terrible 0-0 draw at Ibrox, where it was exactly the same. But because we were moving them about, we created space, and that takes time. That's another thing. And I think that I've seen some people kind of gripe about the performance a little bit, say, it was only all right for me. And you're like, that's kind of how you have to beat a team like that. You're very unlikely to go out and beat a team with 10 men behind the ball and, as Hoggy says, no ambition to play by 5-6 and scintillating football. It doesn't, especially if they're competent at that, which Aberdeen are. There's no... It's very difficult to do that. You've got to outwork them, tire them, and then take advantage. So I think that people are being a wee bit unfair in terms of if you're criticising, well, one of the things I saw was, well, we needed penalties. And it's like, well, if you're doing the whole, we only won because what if we don't get the penalties? Well, what if Defoe scores? If you can't do what if, you need to do what happened. And Rangers, I thought, were more than comfortable. Now, a lot to unpack in the game itself. First things first was the two penalty decisions. Now, I sit in the main stand and down at the Copeland end, and I must admit both penalties I thought were fairly straightforward penalty kicks. For the first one, Katic has the ball. The boy mistimes it slightly and stands on top of his foot. Yes, Katic might go down a little bit theatrically, but as we've been told and shown 1,000 times, if you don't do that, you're not getting a penalty. So for me, pretty straightforward, and he put the ball. James Tavernier steps up, bit of pressure on him, but he puts it away. We'll come to James Tavernier later. The second penalty, now, at the time I thought, oh, that's a Stonewaller, and that's why I think you've got to go with your first reaction to what the referee sees as well, because it appeared that he battered Katic in the face as the ball was going up. He puts his arm out and catches Katic, knocking him down. Thought it was a Stonewaller. And then coming out the ground, people were saying, well, Stevie G said he didn't think it was a penalty and that Katic was down too easy. So I came home ready to watch it, watched it last night, watched it this morning, I've watched it from several angles, and I still think it was a penalty.
The first one's a penalty. No, without a shadow of a doubt. I have to say, Derek McInnes did a little interview for Aberdeen TV. It's on Twitter where
did they sign his pie?
No,
there's no fucking chance they'd have a minute to sign Derek McInnes's pie. You just need to look at the strain his shirt buttons are under to understand that it wouldn't be in his hand long enough to get a fucking biro on top of.
Indeed. Incidentally, Derek McInnes at every other ground in the country wears a trackie and a body warmer, and he pitches up at Ibrox in a suit and a jumper. I wonder if he's maybe subconsciously he maybe wants the job after all. But first one's a stick-on penalty, right? Derek McInnes comes out and then shows that managerial hypocrisy where he says he thinks Lewis Ferguson was fouled. He stays on his feet and he should probably have went down, and then he clips Katic, who goes over theatrically. Well, what do you want? Do you want players going down theatrically or don't you, Derek? It's a foul. Big, Katic, you've got to remember, he's 8'6", so he's going to look gangly when he's going down. He does go down a little bit theatrically, but it's a stick-on. The second one, I didn't think it was a penalty. I still don't, so for anyone who thinks we always agree, David, there we go. I genuinely don't think it was a penalty. However, what I will say is, Aberdeen are a team of giant hammer throwers who have basically bullied their way through games and elbowed people and barged them off the ball and all the rest of it. Think Scott McKenna in the first game when he got Morelos sent off. So I'm not going to cry into my beer over Aberdeen being done for that one.
I don't think they will. Honestly, people who listen to this show know that we'll come out and say we got away with one or that wasn't a penalty or whatever. But I still think that the boy, I think he leads with his arms constantly, and you run the risk of doing that. But anyway, the irony of Derek McInnes doing that was huge, because in the first half, again, right in front of me, the boy they've got up front, Cosgrove, throw in, and Flanagan comes up behind him and sort of nudges into him, no force at all. And Cosgrove does this where he sort of leapt up and flipped over. And it was laughable, and the ref gave the free kick, but noticeably in the second half, as he continued to do it, the referee told him to get up several times, because Aberdeen have several players who are really bad for going down the second they feel contact, and it's been a problem for us all throughout the season. So I don't think you can complain, the whole live by the sword, die by the sword thing. But two penalties put away by James Tavernier, and what a season he is having. That takes him to 16 for the season from right back. Now, he should have had a hat-trick as well, because he scored what, again, I thought at the time was an onside goal. He was level. It should have been given. The whole benefit of the doubt to the attackers thing seems to have gone out the window from football, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and I've seen plenty of online chat around, was it onside, was it offside? Let's clear that up. you can be offside with any part of your body that can score a goal.
Correct.
You're not allowed to score a goal with your arm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
his arm is offside, but yes, as you say, the law says the rest of his body is onside, because the Aberdeen's player foot is about, I'd say, maybe a half a yard behind his torso.
Yep. So Tavernier was onside. Actually, it's something I've rarely seen all season, probably at any game I've watched in any country, David, that the whole benefit of the doubt to the attacker seems to have gone. And I do wonder if it's a case of, actually, even if VAR was there, the linesman would probably have just let it go, and then the TV can sort it out. So it's a strange phenomenon that VAR comes in, and then, as I say, I've rarely seen attackers get the benefit of the doubt all season.
Aye, and it was frustrating, but 16 goals from, yes, a lot of them are penalties, but when people say that, some people, I don't want to create a big straw man, but whenever there's a complaint about, but the penalties, you still have to score them. And it's not, easy, especially under the pressure that you find yourself at Rangers. And yesterday, for example, had he missed that first one, then I think that it would have certainly caused a few jitters in and around the stadium. So he has had a remarkable season. Then you add in the assists, and I know that there will always be some doubts about his defensive capabilities, and he drives me up the pole on occasion, as I'm sure he does everybody else, but he really is a remarkably good football player.
I see online stuff about, let's take £2 or £3 million for James Tavernier. Really? Don't get me wrong, he frustrated when he makes a cataclysmic mistake like he did at Parkhead. That drives me up the wall, of course it does. But from the goals that he scores, and if we examine his consistency over the past 4 games, I think he's been terrific. I think he's been very, very good since we've moved to that narrower midfield shape. What it's doing effectively is having almost 2 supporting or defending midfielders, one of which can break forward when we've got the ball. But effectively, that replaces Candace as his safety net, because those defenders will shuffle across and effectively give him that support, and Connor Goldson will shuffle across one. So actually, it's the one concern I had about moving to this shape, David, was how open would our fullbacks be? And we've played Hearts and we've played Aberdeen, and they've been pretty toothless, and he's not been exposed. So for me, from an overall team shape point of view, it's really worked. I think it's benefiting Tavernier. And, assists and goals, that's bloody difficult to replace, especially if you're going to low ball sell him.
Yeah, exactly. If he does leave, then I think Rangers have just need to point out his stats and say, look, he's so important to us, so you might rate him at 5 million, but we need 10 because we've got to replace those goals, because he is such an important player for us. And then I want to talk a little bit about the midfield, because it's been hit and miss this season, let's be honest. There have been games that they've done very well, and there have been games where we've lacked, I think, a fluidity, I think creativity, but it's been very fragmented, very sort of take the ball and maybe turn and just knock it back the way, and a sort of safe football that is really not what we need. But the last month or so, since we've hit upon this Davis, Kamara, Jack with our field further up, they seem to just dominate the ball because they're such good technical players. All 3 of them are good in terms of what you would maybe damning them with faint praise, but say neat and tidy. But there was a moment yesterday in the 73rd minute where Rangers kept the ball for over 3 minutes with 66 passes completed. Now, yes, Aberdeen are not a team that are going to come out and tackle you, but you still, again, have some quality to do that. And I thought it was telling that, for me, the difference yesterday was Aberdeen realised they weren't going to get the chance, and chances actually, because they've had several in those matches in Glasgow, that they were getting because we weren't making mistakes in the middle of the park. There wasn't space to go into. And I do think that the 3 of them deserve a lot of credit. Obviously, Davis Kamara came in later in the season, And Davis struggled badly to find his form. Kamara, bar really one mistake against Aberdeen, has been terrific. And I'm excited about maybe adding in another quality player into that mix, and we could have something quite special there.
We've stumbled upon it because Stephen Davis is fit. You know, he's physically fit and he's match fit now. He's lasting games. I also want to point out how much more of a footballer does Ryan Jack look alongside that pair. You know, for too long, I think we've looked at Ryan Jack as, or certainly Stephen Gerrard has looked at Ryan Jack as his main midfielder. And of course, we've all looked at it going, that's not enough. But just these past 4 games, I think he's been terrific. Davis, for me, has been the key. Kamara has been excellent since we've signed him. So it is a shame that we didn't stumble upon this with a match-fit Stephen Davis 2.5 months ago, clearly. But these past 4 games, they have been terrific together. And I'd also point out, just even the last 2 games, how much fitter does Scott Arfield look?
He does. I just think this role's better for him because, look, he works really hard in midfield when he's in part of a 3, but you lose so much. And I also think you lose what the other midfielder can bring in. It's just shape, and we just look a lot better balanced. And I think the manager deserves credit for that. Yeah, we could argue it's taken a long time to come to that. But again, we talk a lot about it being a learning process for the manager. And then it's almost as if we expect him to have a month at it and then figure it out, and I don't think football works like that. I think it is a bit more complicated, and I think a lot of it is trying different things until you come across it, and there was an over-reliance on Morelos. It's understandable, but I think having to do without him, the team have stepped up a little bit, and we've worked together as a unit really well. And I thought Defoe, Barry's finishing was terrific. I thought he worked the Aberdeen defence constantly. He was a constant menace, and you know, people had suggested to me last week that it'll be interesting to see how he does against 2 big behemoths like that. Like, it doesn't bother. He's come up against this before. There's nothing he hasn't seen in football. It was always a question with Jermaine Defoe as if he still had the legs and the fitness, and now he does have the fitness. His intelligence and his sharpness cannot be questioned. And it took, I thought, an absolute worldie of a save in the first half to deny him a goal.
Yeah, terrific save. Incidentally, Joe Lewis I think he's proving this season that he's an excellent goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And very much perhaps someone that should be on Rangers' radar, because he's been excellent. And I say that, David, as you know, I'm desperate for Robbie McCrory to step up when Alan McGregor calls it a day. But it was a terrific save for such a big guy to get down and get a strong hand to it when it was going right in the corner was excellent. But Defoe did his best work, somewhat ironically, for a poacher goal scorer outside the box, dragging himself out wide, but dragging at least one defender with him and creating the space for, be it a Jack coming through or a Arfield coming through or even Tavernier to bomb into or whatever. His intelligence has really, really impressed me. And I guess, you know, there's something that, unless you've followed Jermaine Defoe's career pretty forensically, you know, you might not have seen week after week after week. I worried that even with a change of shape, I worried where the link-up play was going to come from because I hadn't really seen it from Jermaine Defoe in a Rangers shirt before. But these past 4 games, he has been excellent in terms of hold-up, bringing the midfield in and scoring goals. Yesterday, he didn't score any goals, but by God, they might be men mountains at the back for Aberdeen, but they are not the most technically gifted nor the most mobile, and they shat it every single time he got the ball.
Now, I've praised the manager there, and regular listeners will know I'm a huge Stevie G mark, a massive fan of his, and have been criticised in the past for being too uncritical of him. But I am going to this week because the aforementioned comments that he said, and I'll quote him here where he said, for the penalty at the second, I think Nico goes down a bit too early and their boy was unlucky. I feel for him. I hope his appeal is successful. Now, I was very surprised by that. Firstly, because as I said, I thought it was a penalty. Secondly, and this is the key thing, I don't quite understand what, if you like, the purpose of it was. Now, we all sit and chat. I've done it on here for years, where I'll sit and say something that's maybe just a throwaway line and people pick up on it, and you think, well, there wasn't that much importance in it. Maybe it was just words that came out of my mouth, you know. But Steven Gerrard doesn't really do that, Hoggy. He's very, very well spoken, obviously, but he's very guarded. You know, he's a guy who's grew up in the spotlight, and usually when he says something, he's making a point. Now, I don't quite understand. I've seen it posited that, well, he wants Considine to win his appeal and not be suspended for the match next week against Celtic. And I get that to a degree. If it was neck and neck, it isn't. We're a long, long way off them, and it'll take, let's be honest, a miracle for us to win the title. So I don't think that can be used as significant enough reason to do it, because for me, what the price of that is he's suggested that Katic goes down too easy, which in Scotland, and he knows this now, he's been here long enough, will then be used to beat the player with constantly. Katic will now be in every press comment and every press conference, and all that. Katic is a diver. That's what you'll hear. Managers will say, well, even Steven Gerrard says he goes down too easy. It's going to follow him. I don't understand it. I didn't get it. That even if you do think it, you shouldn't be coming out and publicly saying that, because to me, all that did was help create a narrative that people will be so happy to push that's going to have a negative impact on us, because the next time Niko Katic is fouled in the box, a referee who's going to have heard all this chatter will go, he goes down too easy. If he's not sure, things like that do play on people's minds. And I didn't want to hear something like that from the manager. It's not like him. I'm not, I don't love him any less because of it. But to me, that seemed a little unguarded and a bit silly.
There was no need for it. Simple as that. And, if I can only imagine that he's saying that with one eye on something else. For example, the narrative that Andy Walker attempted to create around Jermaine Defoe in the first half, when he tries to get out the goalkeeper's way. The goalkeeper is double the size of him. He puts his hands up to protect himself, and he accidentally brushes Joe Lewis's face, right? Andy Walker went on about it for 5 minutes, about how he should have been at least booked, possibly red card, etc., etc. So I just wonder if Gerrard's looking, making those comments with that type of thing in mind. If he's not, then there's absolutely no need to say it, because for all the reasons that you've outlined, David. And also, do you know what? Fuck him. Frankly, too bad. He gets sent off because he raised his hands again. I've said my piece. I don't particularly think it was a penalty. I don't particularly think it was a foul. But fuck him. How many times have they got away with it this season against us? Poleaxing players. I'll go back to last season when Stevie May just about tries to decapitate Ryan Jack. And it's all laughs and giggles with the press and the Aberdeen manager and so on and so on. Yet Jack's out for weeks. So to hell with them. So unless there's an ulterior motive around it from Steven Gerrard, please can that, because there's absolutely no need for it.
It's not his fault that the reality of the situation in Scotland is that people will look for any reason to get tore into us and tore into our players, but it's the reality. It is what it is. We can't change that. Well, not quickly anyway. So I didn't quite understand it. And if I was Katic, I'd be a bit miffed about that, in all honesty, because it wasn't like it was an outrageous dive. It wasn't like there was no contact, or he had, for example, something we saw last week in a match where a player rammed his ankle into another player and then pretended to be injured for a couple of minutes. There was none of that. I didn't think it was necessary, and other people disagree, I'm sure, and that's fair enough. But nah, not for me. Now, something else that happened this week, or last week rather, Hoggy, was that we had taken on Liverpool in a closed door match, which is rapidly becoming one of the most famous closed door matches we've played. Liverpool under 23s. It was a 4-each draw, and as I'm sure everyone will know by now, Rangers sent out a lot of squad players, for I think would be the term. Very experienced team, and we were 4-0 down at half time, with the manager labelling the performance an embarrassment. Changes were made, and 4 of our youth players went on and turned the match with fantastic performances. It was said that the manager was very, very unhappy with 3 players in particular, those players being Kyle Lafferty, Eros Grezda and Borna Barisic, feeling that they basically hadn't tried, their attitude had been awful, and that this had compounded a feeling that had developed about those 3 players over the season. And it was suggested at his press conference, not his televised one, but the one done for the Sunday papers, that he had decided that enough was enough with those 3 players. And not only were they leaving in the summer, but that they wouldn't be considered for first team action at all. Yesterday's squad, 18 men, obviously, and a 19 and 20 who were Dapo and Beauty and Josh McPake. The 3 players didn't make the 20, never mind the 18. Is this the writing on the wall time for these guys?
I'll be amazed if any of them feature for Rangers ever again. It's. I think it's been alluded to throughout the season that there's problems in terms of work rate, desire, mentality, and so on. The one I'm surprised with, David, is Kyle Lafferty, because he wanted the move back to Rangers. I felt as if he'd crawl over broken glass to get back to Rangers. He made it back, and he's very rarely showed up. Now, don't get me wrong, Morelos' performances have gone up so many notches that Kyle Lafferty was always going to find it difficult. But, his time coming off the bench was getting less and less and less. And then, of course, Defoe signs. So you can only point to what the manager's seeing in terms of desire and work rate, etc., and training and bounce matches is simply not enough. And we've already heard from the manager that if he doesn't get that, you're not in the team. So Lafferty's the one that surprises me hugely, but I don't think he'll play for Rangers again. The other 2 came with great high hopes. Barisic, if you remember, started brilliantly and then got a heavy challenge and he was out for a few weeks, and he's quite simply never been the same guy again. It's almost as if it's spooked him completely. Grezda, I don't think's even started. I wonder if maybe Osijek have sent his brother or something like that.
Don't sign players who are carrying an injury, and I don't mean he's got a slight strain and he's going to be out for a week. That's one thing, but guy hadn't played in 2 months, and he had to then first of all arrive at a new club, get to fitness. The problem that happens when that takes place is that fans judge him, and rightly or wrongly, they make up their mind about the guy, which then means he's under pressure to perform. He's never been able to get fit. Whether or not that's a lingering effect of that, I do not know. But you just don't take the gamble. It's not worth it to us. It's just, sorry, not the right time. We'll move on to a different target, because it never works out when we do this. Very rarely, maybe there are 1 or 2 examples, but very rarely can I think of guys who've stepped into the side and who've delivered when that happens, because it just puts too much pressure on them. I think it's not fair to ask them to come in straight after an injury and be at their best. And at Ibrox, more than maybe any other club in the world, you have got to hit the ground running. Barisic, I think he's Jan Bartram. He's a new age Jan Bartram. He's a very talented player. You can see that. He just doesn't fancy the Scottish League, and that will happen. He's not the first talented player. He won't be the last. He's the type of guy, I think, who could go to another league, a better league, and do well. And we often scratch our heads at this and say, well, how come he can be a good player there and he can't cut it in our tin pot wee league? It's because our league is weird and unique and physical. I mean, you just need to look at the 2 teams we've played recently, Aberdeen and Hearts, to see what we mean by that. And I think Barisic is just doesn't want to be here. Nothing to do with Rangers as a club or an employer, but just he doesn't like the environment in which he's playing football and plying his trade. And that's why he'll be going. Lafferty, yeah, 100%. You would have thought that for him, he'd worked so hard to get the opportunity, and then to actually get that second chance, something that meant the world to him, clearly did mean the world to him. And it's almost like when he arrived at Ibrox, he reverted to Kyle Lafferty version 1 instead of the Kyle Lafferty that had managed to rebuild his career and his life and bring him back. And that's it done now. He only had a 2-year deal. If he'd done well, I'm sure it would have been extended, but he hasn't. he will, I think, either be sold or more likely go on loan in the summer for a year, and effectively that's the end of his contract. And just a bizarre waste of a wonderful opportunity.
I think quickly on Grezda first, echo everything you said, David, in terms of signing a player that's injured, or a player gets injured very, very quickly and then comes back and the narrative's almost set. Folk expect to hit the ground running. In this new age of 2019 and social media, it actually doesn't help the guy's case when he's posting pictures outside every damn monument in Scotland. That doesn't help, because folk, injured or not, folk think, oh, he's having a whale of a time on our dime and can't get himself fit. So that just extends that narrative. On Lafferty, it's odd and it's sad. But just to pick up on what you said there, David, about, he tried so hard, he's reverted back to Kyle Lafferty version 1. Yeah, and you would have expected him to, after he worked his balls off to get here and playing so well for Hearts, you would have expected blood, sweat and tears. But maybe Kyle Lafferty version 1 is just Kyle Lafferty. That maybe he just wasn't that good in the first place, or maybe he is very good, and I genuinely do think he's a very good football player. And mentally, he wants to be number one. That's how it strikes me with Rangers. Always struck me that at Hearts he wanted to be the number one striker. And look at the rest of his career. He was number one at Burnley. He wasn't number one with Sion or Palermo or Norwich City. And he struggled wherever he went.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. And just, as I say, a waste. And hopefully he will... I don't know what now. I honestly don't. He's getting to that stage in his career where there's not going to be opportunities like this again, and it's just a shame. I'd hoped that it would work out this time. I thought he would contribute. I didn't think he would be the guy, because obviously we've got Morelos, who's a much better player, but I did think that he could contribute, and it's disappointing that it's worked out this way. And nice to see that Davis, who looked, for different reasons, like he was going that way, is turning it around and starting to show us that form is indeed temporary and class very much is permanent. Okay, then, moving on, Hoggy. Last week saw the official release of the new kits. Rangers next season will have obviously a blue home top, a red third strip, I'm told. I'm told the black and grey strip is the away kit, but we'll see what happens with that. An all red third kit. What were your thoughts on the three kits from Hummel?
So, first and foremost, I like that Hummel are making a really big deal of it, because I think we've said before, David, we could be with Nike or Adidas and in their grand scheme of pecking order be at number 100, whereas we are far and away Hummel's largest client. So Hummel are making a massive song and dance. The home kit, I'm not entirely sold. I'd heard that it was going to be a bit of a take on the 83-84 pinstripe effort, which I loved because I was 8 years old and had both the home and away. Not entirely sold on it, to be honest. Wee bit too much detail for me. I like just blue. The away one, the black and grey one, it's all right. And the all red one takes me back to when Nike did that round about 2000. So I quite like it. I think there's been a bit of, it's a wee bit too much like Aberdeen. Well, do you know what? Aberdeen don't own red. So, and I've grown up with Rangers having lots of red kits. In fact, my very first away kit was a hand-me-down from my older brother, the red one with the massive red, white and blue collar.
Yeah, so, the back when strips were proper, and the away kit would be the home kit in a different colour.
Exactly that, and would also take the skin off your nipples.
Yeah, they were rough, man. You young kids don't know you're born with your modern ultralight breathable fabric. Back then, it was made of what felt like nylon mixed with rope. And as Hoggy said, the reason that Scottish men grew hairy chests back, I'm convinced this is why, because I've got a very hairy chest. You've got a very hairy chest. People our age tend to. Whereas your younger kids today, they don't. And I think that's what it was. We grew up as Waynes wearing these fucking things that rubbed our nipples to fuck, and our bodies went, I've got to grow some sort of defence against that. Whereas if you've grown up with all this lovely stuff, you're not going to bother, and you're going to come out looking like a sort of baked bean, I think. But I like them, yeah. I like the third one, or the black one rather. I'm still convinced it's the third kit, but I really like that. I like the home kit. I'll need to see it close up to see, because I think in photographs they exaggerate the detail. And I don't think it'll be quite as clear and visible. But I like the design. I like the shape of it. The third kit's just a plain red kit, and I don't think you've got to be a marketing genius to work out what they're doing. It's got nothing to do with Aberdeen. It's quite clearly Liverpool, and it's quite clearly an attempt to get people who like Steven Gerrard and follow Liverpool to buy a Rangers kit. And hopefully it works, and we sell an awful lot of them. So I'm quite happy. But it did get me thinking, because as I've mentioned, I think, on here before in the last couple of weeks, I love old strips, and I'm a collector of retro kits, and I've gone through a wee spell of buying some in. And it got me thinking about, what are your favourite kits from the past? And we'd like to hear from listeners as well. So, Hoggy, get the ball rolling. You mentioned there that you really liked the 83-84 one. I, too, really, really liked that strip. But for me, I'm a great one for the home 85-86 C.R. Smith. And I know it came out before that, but the C.R. Smith one, I like it with the sponsor. That, for me, is as good as football strips ever got.
Yeah, my two favourites. In fact, let me give you a very quick story. I don't think I've told this story in the flagship. When I was 10 years old, when that strip came out, I was one of these kids that was forced to go to church. And how quickly did I grow out of that, David?
We all were. I mean, I had to go to Sunday school every week. It was just part of the 80s. If you were a Protestant, you went to Sunday school. And I'd imagine if you were some other faith or denomination, you went there. But I was from Coinning, and nobody else was of another faith or denomination.
Indeed. So on Christmas Day, Christmas morning, I got up, and lo and behold, Santa's brought the Rangers strip, full strip, and a new pair of football boots and shin guards. Christmas morning, we, except my dad, who didn't go to church because he thought it was shite, we were all off to church. And the minister at the time in the Pollock Shields Church of Scotland, basically he was right into telling stories to the kids and loved having the kids in the church. So basically said, on Christmas Day, bring your favourite Christmas present. So I went to church on Christmas Day in full Rangers kit, shinnies, and football boots. And another wee chap went with his new Bible. So, yes, and I'll give you one guess. You'll probably only need one. Did the minister prefer the full Rangers strip or the Bible? And the answer is not the Bible. So yeah, that one was excellent. But the other one that I really, really loved, and it's both the home away, was the one that came after that. The original Wee Squares Umbro one, modelled by Maurice Johnson.
Yes, indeed. No, I love that one as well. It's a classic. In terms of away kits, what are your favourites there? For me, I love the Adidas kits in particular, but the white away one is an absolute beezer.
It was, but away kits for me are summed up by Davy Cooper and that Umbro strip with the V-neck and the blue collar with the blue and red stripe across it.
Well, folks, me and Hoggy are two old farts, so our kits were obviously going to be from back in the day, but do you like any of the more modern ones? Perhaps you're a lover of that horrible 2004, 2005 strip. Oh, sorry, 2003, 2005 strip. Let us know what your favourite one is, and we'll see if we'll get on a Hummel, and we'll say this one. That's the one next year. That's the one that we're after. But new kit available for pre-order on the Gers store online if you want to go and have a look at that. That'll do for me and Mr. Hogg this week. We'll be back on Thursday with Heart and Hand Extra previewing the match against Hibs this Sunday. But why wait? Why wait till then when you could be listening to a whole host of fabulous stuff over at patreon.com, where Heart and Hand have their own channel, and we put out minimum 3 shows every day, sometimes as many as 5, and they do everything. We cover everything to do with Rangers. We cover most things to do with football, and we even cover a few other things to give you a laugh on top of that. It's very much worth what we charge for it, which is just $1.99 per month for the basic package. So please come along and see if you like it. It's well worth checking out. Our thanks then to our producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Mr. Paul Miles, and my thanks to the ever wonderful Mr. Ian Hogg.
Pleasure as everyone. Have a great week, everyone.
I'll talk to you again on Thursday. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.